Hello, Lanas. Welcome back to our segment today. I am instructor CPA Ringo Frederick. Now, class today, I want us to continue with our block revision. Remember, we've already started our block revision for business data analytics. And at this point, of course, in our last class, we had handled question number 21, which these are what, of course, we handle. We cleared question number 21. It was all reporting plus the component of ratios. Yeah, so these are what we did. And we cleared that part. Yeah, including our graphical representation. Question number 22 is about financial management. And this is what I want us to handle. Remember, you can get this model paper just below this video. I'm going to attach a link which you can be able to access this revision paper, which is a block revision paper. Question number 23 will be expected to handle area to do with taxation. 24, it is about management accounting, whereas 25, it is all about aspect of auditing and assurance. Yeah. So looking at this in this context, then let us go straight to question number 22. So question number 22, we are told, number one, A, you are a financial management consultant in an investment firm. A potential client requests you to analyze an investment with the following features. The cost of investment, 8 million. The investment pays out a sum of Z at the end of the first year. This payout grows at the rate of 8% per year for 10 years. It grows at the rate of 8% per year for 10 years. Okay. Required, we are told, if your discount rate is 12%, calculate the minimum value of Z that should attract the investor to make the investment. So what is the minimum value of Z that should attract the investor to make the investment? Of course, when you're looking at minimum, that is to say, regardless of if I invest, I won't incur any loss or I won't incur any aspect of what? Any aspect of maybe a profit in that, a safe zone. So ideally at this point, our present value should be equal to 0. At a point whereby we consider that the minimum value that I can put in place is a point where my net present value should be equal to 0. That is to say, I won't make any profit and I won't make any loss. Yeah. Part 2 of the question you asked, the respective NPVs of the investment if the discount rates were to range between 8% to 12%. Okay. The other part you are asked here, assume that you have 3 project scenarios as outlined below. Prepare a detailed outcome of the project under each of the above scenarios. Okay. Part B of the question you asked, assume that an investor takes an investment loan of 120 million. The loan is for 36 months at an annual interest rate of 14%. The payments are to be made at the end of each of the next 36 months. Okay. Required, calculate the monthly payment on the loan. Prepare the loan amortization schedule for the loan above. Then part 3 of this question you asked, assume you have the following options to negotiate with the bank, where we are having option 1, 2, 3. Use a two-way data table to determine which option should be the most favorable to the investor. Okay. So that is what you are given. As I've said, you can get, of course, this paper. I'm attaching this paper, of course, below this video so that you can be able to download and have access to read. So we are told part A, we need to determine a discount rate if your discount rate is 12%, calculate the minimum value of Z that should attract the investor to make the investment. So at this point, my good students, I will take you back probably to what you did earlier on, when you are looking at, of course, the present value. When you're looking at the present value, yes, but in this case, you're looking at what? Annuity growth, right? Annuity growth. So at this point, it is important for us, of course, to recall what we did back earlier on. Anytime you talk about the present value of growing annuity, right? So in the event that you're talking about present value, these are present value of a growing annuity, present value of a growing annuity. At this point, yes, we are looking at an annuity, but it has a growth rate, right? Present value of a growing annuity. It is important, very important for us to always recall this formula of ours, where we normally tend to talk about, of course, our value to be, my present value to be equal to our P. I'll be explaining the variables, yeah? So about P, of course, times 1 minus 1 minus into bracket, of course, these are 1 plus our growth rate, raised to power n, raised to power number of period. In this case, you are going to multiply this one by 1 plus r raised to power negative n. Okay, so after having all that, we are going to divide all this by, of course, by r minus our g. If at all you can recall what we did earlier on. So to explain our variables, in this case, of course, when you have to talk of this, we are looking at P, which will simply represent the present value, right, of the value. This is the present value of the investment. So PV will give us, of course, present value of the investment. Present value of the investment. We're having a present value of the investment. Whereas when you have to talk of P, in this case, P, remember, it will always give us, of course, the payout at the end of the period. That should be, of course, really about P being the payment amount. These are payment amount at the end of the period. When you are looking at, of course, G, this is a growth rate, of course, that you're given. Growth rate per period, growth rate per period. These are growth rate per period, yeah. When we are talking about our N, I know we are all familiar with that. So N is simply the number of period that you're really about, number of period, what you're really about. Then talk about our R. R will simply give us the discount rate, right, per period. This is a discount rate per period, yeah, discount rate per period, or just the discount rate of the period given the case, yeah. So having that case, it will be important then for us to dissect this very clearly, for us to be able to have it in mind. So these are simply the discount rate. You can just have it instead of per period, just have it as discount rate. So once we have this, analyzing our question, which we've gone through it, we have our initial investment, which will be our present value. Initial investment, which is the present value of our present value for investment. We're having the 8 million as per what you are given by a good examiner. Payment at the end of the period, that is what you are required to determine Z now. If your discount rate is 12, calculate the minimum value of Z that should attract the investor to make the investment, given that the investment pays out Z at the end of the first year. And we've said P simply will represent, of course, the payment at the end of the year. So that is what we're talking about here. So we need to determine that Z, which we don't have. The growth rate, we're given our growth rate to be 8%. Number of period, we are given 10. Discount rate, you're given a discount rate at 12%. So these are what a good examiner has given us in this context. So preparing all this, the next stage will be for us to substitute this data in our formula here, right? So allow me to use, this is a formula that we want to apply. This is a formula that we'll be using. So on this case, we have our PV, present value of the investment, which is 8 million. So it as if you're talking about 8 million will be equal to P, that is the payment at the end of the period, which you don't have. That's what has been represented by Z. We multiply, of course, by into bracket 1 minus into bracket 1 plus G, growth rate is 0.08, raised to power N, which is 10. We multiply this one by, of course, 1 plus R, which is 0.12, raised to power negative N, which is 10. So after we have all this has to be divided by, of course, the value that you're having, our R, which is 0.12, less our rate, which is 0.08. So that as at the end of the day, my good students, what will we be having if we solve this? So if we solve this, first of all, our denominator, I'll be having our value there, which we can have it as 0.4. Our numerator, if we solve our numerator, what will we be having? So if we solve our numerator at this point, I'll just pick that one. We have it here. So remove Z first. So in this case, I'll be having our value, which is 0. If at all you have it into as many decimal places as you can. We're using Excel, so it will be easy. So in this context, you can agree, it is as if we are saying now we have the 0.3048839 this one divide by, these are what you're having, of course, that value that we have, we divide by, and now here, this value, we divide by 0.04, whatever that you determine here. So you can say this is Z, yeah? 0. Of course, 3088Z, divide by whatever that we have determined at that point. So this will give us our 800 here. That will give us 800. So I need to determine the value of Z. What will be our Z in this question of ours here? So my Z, you can agree, it will be as if we are talking of 800,000, 8 million, sorry, this is 8 million, yeah, times, of course, our value here, which I'd be having 320. Now, divide by, so this is, remember this is Z, so you're saying now we're determining our Z. So I should be having that. So I'd be having that value determined by what you are determining here. Remember, our value is splitted up to that point. So you can agree that our value of Z, we should be having our value of Z here, we should be talking of that divide by that to give us the value of Z. And this is what we were required to determine. So you'll find that this is a value, the minimum value that we can invest at a discount rate of 12%. And that is what you are looking at here. The investment that pays out a sum of Z at the end of the first year. So this is what I should invest in the first year. The minimum value that we should have, which we've agreed that at this point, our NPV will be equal to 0. At this point, our NPV will be equal to 0. So this is the first way that you can work it out. The second way is using this easiest way, whereby we come and, of course, we've analyzed our data at that point. We come and have this case. We want to talk of our years, this year or a period. This is another way that you can work it out. Period 0, that is our investment period. 1, 2, all the way to, we are looking at 10 years. So our initial investment is 8 million. Yeah, our initial investment is 8 million. This is another way. Our initial investment is 8 million. So assuming I don't have this value that we want to determine. So we assume that we invest what? 1 shilling. Assuming the minimum amount that I'm investing is 1 shilling. Okay? This 1 shilling will be growing at the rate of 8%. So I'll be having the 1 shilling growing at the rate of 8%, 1.08 growth rate that you are given here. So that at this point, it will grow up to that point. Yeah. So assuming that that is our value that you don't know, 1, which we've taken 1, right? So we want to determine our net present value. Determining our net present value, remember the formula that Mwalimu guided us. We said using an Excel function, all you need to do is to click NPV. We have tab. Our rate discount rate is 12%, comma. Our value, this is our value that you're having. We less what? We less our initial investment, 8 million. So this is what you're having as our NPV. So we want to determine what is the minimum value that I'll have to invest to give us NPV to be 0. Because you say that at this point, the minimum investment is always an investment whereby you won't incur any loss or you won't gain any profit. It is a point whereby your net present value is 0. So we use what? The concept that Mwalimu guided us. Remember the goal seek concept. So you come to your data, We go to TIF analysis, we insert data table, not data table, but goal seek. You come to your goal seek. So for goal seek, I want to set my NPV to be 0. So this is NPV. I want to have it to 0. By changing which cell? By changing the minimum investment which I'm doing in year 1, which is 1. So in that case, what will we be having? Look at this magic. Just do what? Okay. You see, the minimum investment that we can have is what? Given this year, given the period, we can prove it here. This is what we are having. Minimum investment. We can see at the end of year 1, which is 1049. So again, we can agree that our Z is 1049. You see, this is how you can always use these methods, right? And this is what we normally guide you guys in our classes. So make sure if at all you've not gone through our block revision and you're doing business data analytics most of this August, be sure to check it out. Be sure to check it out. So these are what you should be having as our minimum investment. Okay. So we are done with that part. We're done with that part. I'll do part 2 of the question. Part 2 of the question, as I've said, you can get this paper, of course. You can just download it below this video. Part 2 of the question, these are what you're asked. Yeah. We're told the respective NPVs of the investment if the discount rates were to range between 8% to 12%. So what this examiner wanted us to determine is for us to do our scenario. This is scenario analysis. Yeah. So you're told we need to determine our NPV if our rates are as follows. Rates, given our following rates ranging from 8% to 12%. Yeah. So you can take maybe a range of 1 plus 1%. So you can take a range of 1% up to 12. That's okay. So you need to determine our NPV at this given rate. Remember the concept of data table. Our variable is only 1 here. So if a variable is 1, that is to say all I'll be required simply to do is to use what? One-way data table. One-way data table. So my one-way data table will require me to put my original value of NPV. My original value of NPV here, we had 0. So make sure that you copy the formula, what you had computed. That will be our original value of our NPV. So after determining our original value of NPV, I want to put my set. If it is one-way data table, we said that given our set in our table, the first column to your left should always be blank. This is the column that Mwalimu is talking about. Using one-way data table, this column should always be blank. This column should be blank in our data here. So that what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight. These are what we need to achieve. So let me even have it into like that. So we need to determine the NPV at these given rates. So instead of you doing it manually, this is the best way that you can work it out. Just highlight your data from the point blank up to that. You see I've skipped the titles, right? You go to your data, come to OTIF analysis, go to your data table. Our variable that is changing is only 1, and that is the rates. So how have we arranged our rates? We've arranged them in a columnar format. So you come to column input cell. I want to input my rates. So go to the original rate that we had used earlier on. Our original rate we had 12%. That was our original rate, discount rate that we had used, the original rate, 12%. So once I've done that, all you need to do is to simply do what? Click OK. See the magic. See the magic? It has given us our NPV at these different what? At these different rates. That's the beauty part with you understanding the concepts of BDA. BDA is not only about you getting to know the shortcuts of Excel. No, it is not about you getting to know about the shortcuts of Excel. It is more to do with that. Yeah. So that is what you're required to do in this. Of course, part 3 of the question and the rest of these questions, of course, you can get them in our platform. That is, of course, MDarasa. If at all you're doing your exams in August BDA, all you need to do is to just log into, if at all you don't have an account, go to app.mdarasa.co.ke. Yeah. Create your account at that point, then go to the segment where we're having block revision for August exams, block revision for August 2024 exams. You'll get all these questions, you've answered them from question number 21 all the way to question number 25. And in that case, you'll also get the theory part. So these are what you are required to do. Mwalimu has only done part 1 and part 2. Remember the rest of the part, you can always access them in our platform. So that point, guys, we'll continue doing this. So that point, I wish you a very nice time. And as you are revising, make sure that at least you revise in a smart way. Yeah. So to that point, thank you so much. See you in our next session, guys. Bye-bye.